the pyramid in the terracotta army, there was weapons found there. They were bronze weapons, but they were still very razor sharp, and they were covered in black. Metallurgy analysis of this blackness proves that it was chromium plated. Chromium plating didn't come into the West until 1920 in Germany. And the only way you can chromium plate things is by electrolysis. Yet there's a sword of Emperor used over 2,000 years ago with chromium plating on it. So the Chinese must have had electrolysis to do that. The other thing about the Chinese back then, they had oil wells and oil rigs made of bamboo. So they were mass producing oil, but they were also mass producing weapons. And to do that, they had to have furnaces. And they started making steel weapons about 2,000 years ago. Not iron, but steel. Now to make steel, you need a blast furnace. And that technology didn't come to Europe until the 18th century and didn't really take off till the 19th century. So when the West says, oh, we're quite advanced technologically in metallurgy, it's like, no, sorry. The Chinese, the Egyptians, they were way ahead of it. Well, if we're out of this Stone Age and then all of a sudden we're coming into the Bronze Age, and then we've got this Iron Age, and we're still running around hunter-gathering and fighting for survival, to feed with bellies, feed with families. Where did this technology come from? Where did the time come from it? And I kind of like go along with Graham Hancock, because he made a point in a video I watched a while ago. He was talking about the drug ayahuasca on TV when he went with the indigenous tribes of South America. Now, they know that these tribes were doing this for at least 2,000 years, taking this ayahuasca. But there's over 4,000 different plants in the Amazon, or trees actually, not plants, just trees. To get this ayahuasca, you have to mix 2 trees together. So where did they get that knowledge from? You know, somebody coming up to them and saying, well, if you mix that tree with that tree, you'll get this drug, which does what ayahuasca does. I can't accept that this was trial and error. So if you eat a mushroom and you die, you're not going to eat that mushroom again. Nobody will touch it. So how did they know? But how did they know this? Is this knowledge being passed down, which I think from a civilization which existed thousands of years before 12,000 years ago? Because every bit of research I find, I keep going back to this magical date of 12,500 years ago. The alignment of the stars, it matches the Great Pyramids, it matches Stonehenge better, it matches a lot of ancient sites better. But civilizations don't just grow like that. They grow over time, over thousands of years to evolve. So when somebody says, yeah, the Egyptians built that pyramid, it's like, sorry, just on the metallurgy alone, I can't accept that. But the sheer mathematics of the pyramid, it was mind-boggling. And we're only still touching the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg with the mathematics of the pyramid. That knowledge came from somewhere. Some people say it came from the aliens. I'd love that to be true, but you know, I don't think it is. I think civilization existed more than 12,000 years ago. There's a lot of evidence then that there was a great flood, that the Ice Age was starting to retreat, and not just the Egyptians were trading with the ancient Britons, but that they were going to Australia, that they were going to South America, that they were trading all around the world, that there was a global trade going on. And then 12,000 years ago, something catastrophic happened. They say it was a great flood, but remnants of these civilizations started to spring up again. but with them they took some technologies. We're told that one of the first civilizations was Sumeria. Now Sumeria was highly advanced to just suddenly be born out of a desert. It came from somewhere. The mathematics, the language, the writing, the metallurgy of Sumer came from somewhere. They say it came from the gods, who knows. It's very interesting that everybody who researches all these subjects all come to the same conclusion I came to, that previous to 12,000 years ago there were advanced civilizations on this planet. More proof comes when you get like coal miners splitting open a piece of coal and they find a gold chain in it, which is millions of years old. One of the most famous and interesting artifacts for me is what's known as the London hammer. It was found in rock 350 million years old. The metal of the hammerhead is iron, which is still there, and it has been broken down, and the technology into producing it was highly advanced. It's got 12 different minerals in it, making it so hard that it can be used as a nice hammer. Probably one of the best hammers we have in existence today. The wood on it, some of it is fossilized, but some of it's still there in its vegetable form. So it's very interesting. Another artifact I found interesting was one found in Romania, and it looks like a bracket. Some people are saying it's one of the foot off a UFO, but it is a lot aluminium alloy. Now, aluminiums weren't first produced until around about 1910, and they weren't really into their own being until the 1940s and early 50s, where aluminium really took off, the technology with aluminium. Yet this bracket was found in bedrock. I think it was 200 million years old. And all around the world there's like the Krugsdorp stones. They're actually metal balls and they're perfectly round. They're trying to say that they were formed naturally. Well, the metallurgy breakdown of them says no, they were man-made. Yet they are millions of years old. There's rocks, Russia, where one has a spark plug or what looks like a spark plug in it. Many have iron filings in them. Many have screws in them. So they're not just a one-off. But when you produce these to an archaeologist, they've got, yeah, it's interesting that, but put it on the shelf. And you find that museums all around the world, in their vaults and cellars, they're full of artifacts like this. We're told a paradigm of history. Now, anything what comes out of that paradigm, they don't want to know. So that paradigm shift is going to be there. It's static, it's permanent, and they don't want that change. So their reputations are more valid than telling us the truth. When somebody like me comes along and starts asking questions about metalurgy, the first thing they go is, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, you want solid proof, I'm giving you solid proof. There's a metal object. I want to know how it was made, the technology, what went into it. Science is science. And they don't like that. Have you heard of this city called Dwarka? It's mentioned in ancient Indian Sanskrit writings like the Mahabharata. But Dwarka was the city of Shiva, the god of destruction. In recent years, they've discovered the actual city, which is underwater. And it's much like the pyramid of Japan, Yugohami I think it's called. But it's evidence of civilizations underwater, something like 300 feet in depth, which, if you talk to these people who believe in the Great Flood, the evidence, again, it goes back to about 12,500 years ago, where these cities were exposed to fresh air. Now, what's interesting about Dwarka is There are many stories written about Shiva, the god of destruction, or the destroyer god. He flew around in flying saucers, basically called Vimanas. Now, this is where metallurgy comes in it for me. There's a couple of areas in northern India, Pakistan border, which have radioactive elements spread out on the ground, which can only have come from spent uranium, and some of these sites are 18,000 years old. So certainly a technology existed before the Great Flood, if there was a Great Flood, but the evidence is there in metallurgy. Like I say, radioactive material, it's radioactive for thousands and thousands of years, and you can't deny it, and it only comes from one source, and that's nuclear fusion. So something happened. In Egypt, there's a pyramid there which allegedly blew up about 15,000 years ago. Again, the isotopes are there. Now, what makes Tutankhamun's dagger interesting is the amount of minerals that are mixed in with that iron. I know I said they were banging it to get rid of some of them, the impurities, but some of them, they wanted them to stay, which gives the knife its strength. One of the minerals is cobalt, which gave it away, saying, well, it must have come from a meteorite. And each meteorite has a metallurgic signature, and they found the actual meteorite King Tut's dagger was made from, verifying that this cobalt was in the meteorite. The society, the kings, the armourers, the warlords, all wanted the blacksmith, the pattern makers, the moulders, to make them these weapons. And with the aura and the chi going into the making, and when the actual owner of the sword gets it, he's putting his spirit into that sword. The sword then does become alive. And yeah, I've picked up weapons over the years, and some of them, you touch them and you're almost getting like an electric pulse from them. You know, like when you pick a crystal up and you can feel it pulsing. It's like that. You can tell who had the sword. It's put in. It's almost like the sword has its own Akashic record. And psychics are well aware of this. Science is only just starting to accept it. You know, science has just recently admitted that we actually live in a matrix, that everything is an illusion, which is what Buddhism's been going about for thousands of years. You know, my background is Shaolin martial arts, which comes from Buddhism. The philosophy is the way of the Tao. You don't go against things. You don't go against the river. The river flows. You go with that flow, and that's what the Tao is. So when you're given a sword or you're producing a sword, you go with the spirit, with the Tao, and that's what makes the difference between a standard sword and something very, very special. But the ultimate gain of a warrior is not to fight, is to actually heal people. And as my journey took me where, yeah, now I am a spiritual healer, and I understand it through metals and through crystals, that background I've got in exactly what is happening to the human body when I'm healing. There is an energy there, and it's that energy which the metal workers have put into the weapons for thousands of years. That energy, I call it chi. It can be used for good or for bad. I like to use it for good and help heal people, or try to help them. Right, thank you.
Cheers,